a comb, a college degree, the Seahawks game schedule, and a high-heel shoe. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to share with you how these objects are related to one another. And not only to one another, but to every one of you. And not only to every one of you, but to every company around the globe. Let me start by taking you on a journey and telling you about some friends of mine. Janice has worked at the same Minnesota company for the last 25 years and counting. She gets up at 5 a.m. every morning, she puts on her sneakers, she heads to the mall, she does a 3-mile walk with her sister, she comes home, she spends a considerable amount of time getting ready for work, works exactly 10 to 6, comes home, makes dinner, sits down to relax and watch her shows before calling it a night. Nick, he's a finance guy. The car he drives to work has a huge University of Michigan bumper sticker on it. He's grabbed the same sandwich from the same deli around the corner from work for the last 15 years and counting. You go into Nick's office, you'll see pictures of his family lined up on his desk and a framed original of his college diploma. Will, he's a manager at a large multinational. He gets to work every morning at 8, works till 6, unless, of course, the Seahawks are playing. And then he knocks off at 4 or 5 to make sure he gets home to see the game. Most nights he'll head to the gym before heading home for a late dinner. The last woman is a partner at a leading professional services firm. She gets up and works out every morning, no matter where she is in the world. She transitions into her power suit and heels, proceeds to work a 12 to 14-hour day, moving from meeting to meeting and call to call. When she finally calls it quits at 8 or 9 at night, she sits down to have dinner with her family and her cell phone. You guys know any of these people? Do they sound familiar to you? Right. Anything special about them? Anything that makes them stand out? Not really, because I've just described 4 pretty typical people that we see in our workplaces every day. And you know what? These people are really excited that they don't stand out. Why? Because they've been getting up every morning and going to work and working a second job. And they've done it really well. The job description, it goes something like this. Hide my true self, blend in, don't stand out, cover up my differences. Let me explain. Janice is a black woman, and her hair is so frizzy and out of control by white standards that if she were to wear it in its natural state, she would stick out amongst her mostly white colleagues. So she spends all of that time in the morning and several bathroom stops during the day, comb in hand, making her hair lie down and look more straight and white, just like most of the other black women in her office. Nick, he grew up so poor that for the entire 4th grade, his lunch consisted of white bread with ketchup. Everybody in his office, certainly at his level, grew up upper middle class, if not higher. He's got absolutely nothing in common with these people, except that college diploma. So it remains front and center. Will, he's a gay guy. Nobody knows. He's afraid if they found out at work, it would limit his opportunities. So he keeps that Seahawks schedule on his desk and talks about football incessantly. In fact, everyone knows him as the tough, masculine guy obsessed with football. And he'll do nothing to change that perception. The last story, well, that one's about me. On September 11th, 2001, I was in the World Trade Center when the first plane hit. By luck, I wasn't sitting near the window of the restaurant in which I was dining, and I lived, unlike so many people in that room and on that day. The very next day, I got up, I put on my power suit, my power heels, and I went to work. And on that day, and for the next 3 years, I pretended as if nothing had happened. Except inside, I was suffering from panic, anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder. At first, I avoided meetings in our downtown Manhattan offices, and then I just avoided meetings in Manhattan altogether. So ashamed was I of my inability to cope and the fact that I had survived. Janice, Nick, Will, and I, we were all working second jobs. I didn't know it, none of us did. It wasn't conscious, it was just survival. But it begs this question, is this really how we want to show up in our workplaces today? By denying who we are, what we look like, our experiences? I don't think so. Fast forward. Several years later, I had the opportunity to see my friend, the legal scholar Kenji Yoshino, give a talk. And he was talking about the sociologist Erving Goffman and this concept called covering. Goffman defined covering as downplaying our stigmatized identities, or in other words, hiding a significant part of who we are. Kenji elaborated on this by stating this: covering is a hidden assault on our civil rights. We have not known it as such because it has been swaddled in the benign language of assimilation. But when we look more closely, we see that covering is the way that many groups are being held back today. This hit me like a freight train. While I identified with this concept of covering, and it certainly defined my 9/11 experience perfectly, what really hit me hard was the realization of how covering had held me back from any kind of human connection with my clients or my colleagues. And despite all efforts to the contrary and this insatiable desire to be wildly successful in my career, the truth is that my firm, my clients, they were only getting about half of me. Half of my brain, half of my attention, half of my passion. This all got me thinking that while Goffman and Kenji had done a beautiful job about talking about covering from a sociological standpoint and a legal standpoint, I wondered, what was the corporate cost of covering? So I asked my friend Kenji to join me in examining if covering was happening, not just in life, but at work. And if it were, at what cost? Here's what we found. 61% of all respondents reported covering at work. When you break that down, it looks something like this. 83% of the lesbian, gay, bisexual community covers at work. 81% of people with disabilities, emotional or physical, cover at work. 79% of blacks, 67% of women of color, 66% of women overall, 63% of Hispanics and Latinos, 61% of Asians, and finally, 45% of straight white males report covering at work. So, you're probably saying, people get up and they go to work and they do their jobs anyway. Why should I care? Because 2 out of every 5 respondents stated that covering had a negative or detrimental impact on their sense of self. And over 50% of them stated that it was their leaders' expectation of them to cover that impacted their sense of opportunity and their sense of commitment to their work. So why care? Well, let's review. Covering's happening, not just in life, but at work. For those who cover, well, guess what? They're showing up at work feeling less than and sub-optimized. And finally, well, they're going to walk right out your door. Can we really afford these kinds of outcomes in our workplaces today? We spend millions of dollars and all this time and effort figuring out how we're going to delight our clients, build the next great innovation, or just meet our growth numbers. Can we really afford this? Can we afford to have over 50% of our workforce working their identity instead of their jobs? Think about that. Working their identity instead of their job. Janice, Nick, Will, and I, we are the face to all of those statistics. You know these people. You might be sitting right next to one of these people. You may be one of these people. How do you feel? This isn't a talk about diversity and inclusion. This is a talk about leadership. Full stop. Our research places the demand to cover squarely at the feet of leaders, the cultures they create in their work groups, their business units, in their organizations as a whole. For far too long, we've abdicated the responsibility of human flourishing and authenticity to a few in our organizations, rather than the responsibility of each and every one of us. What we need in our organizations today aren't just emotionally intelligent leaders. What we need are emotionally mature leaders who have the capacity and the capability to have conversations across difference, to invite that difference into the room, to create the next great invention or delight our customers or meet growth numbers. While all of that sinks in, I've got one more story for you. This is my daughter, Samantha. Okay, cutest darn thing, right? Come on. Sam takes horseback riding lessons. And the other day I was with her, watching her take her lesson, and she's on her horse, Paint, who's decidedly stubborn and doesn't really like to move very much, which makes horseback riding lessons a little difficult. And she is kicking Paint, she's lurching forward, she's going, go Paint, go. And after a couple of iterations of this, her teacher comes up to her and says, Sam, what are you doing? Sam says, well, I'm looking down at my feet, I'm trying to get Paint to go. And her teacher says to her, Sam, look up, look forward. Choose the spot in which you want to go in the ring and focus on it. And I promise you, Paint will move. So Sam readjusts herself, she looks up, she looks forward. With great intention, she chooses her spot. And suddenly, the horse surges forward. Why? Why did the horse do this? Because the horse is so sensitive and in tune to its rider that although I couldn't see it, that simple look up created this powerful shift in Sam's body, and the horse reacted. Leaders are the rider's eyes of our organizations. Their power of influence is immense, and it will be felt by the sensitive collective of all their people. But current leadership efforts have failed. I believe strongly a subtle shift in view can change all of this. A comb, a college degree, the Seahawks game schedule, and a high heel shoe. At least 61% of us are held back by one of these objects or one similar. 100% of us don't ask them to hold the comb higher or throw it down. This is me looking up, looking forward. This is me sharing my truth, my uncovered narrative, and asking all of you to do the same. Thank you. Thank you.